Okay, guys, this is going to be your Saturday video report. I'm going to break down all of your preseason games for you. Hi, everyone. Al DeMarco here. Of course, last night, those straight-up winners delivered again versus the odds makers. 4-0 sweep last night, 6-0 this week, off the heels of going 16-0 last week. Those straight-up winners so far in preseason play this August. 43-3 versus the spread. That, of course, no big surprise because last year they went 56-3-4 ATS in preseason play and covered at an 82% clip preseason, regular season, and postseason play a year ago. Perhaps the biggest shocker last night, the Jets' miserable performance in a home loss to a Washington Redskins team, minus Donovan McNabb. You know, the Jets, the media darlings here because of the Hard Knocks TV series, Rex Ryan's bold predictions, but really they haven't done squat since the first half of their opening loss to the Jets, or to the Giants, losing that game as their backups didn't perform, then the miserable effort last week in a loss to Carolina, and now last night almost failing to show up for that game. So it'll be interesting to see how they start off the season, if they come out the block strong, or if all the media publicity and stuff they're getting ends up being a backlash against Rex Ryan and the New Yorkers. Let's run down these preseason games for you quickly. First of all, the Lions and the Browns, both of these teams expected to play their starters through the third quarter. Browns, of course, coming off a home loss to the St. Louis Rams, a game played in the rain and muddy field in Cleveland last Saturday, a game I lost. I know all about that one. 5 turnovers, 4 of them they lost, and that cost them that game. As for the Browns offense, Jake Delhomme has played very well, 78% completions. He's expected to see 3/4 of action tonight, probably giving way then to Seneca Wallace, who has also performed admirably here in the preseason. So they apparently have solved their long-running quarterback problems, at least through the first 2 games here in August. As for Detroit, the offense has really been humming. Offense of the first-teamers in there, 6 scores in 8 possessions. You may recall this is a rematch of last year's regular season game in which Matt Stafford suffered a shoulder injury on the second-to-last play of the game, returned to action through a touchdown pass. His time expired, one of his 5 TD passes on the day to give the Lions a 38-37 win in that contest. Lions have been getting very good ground production, very strong rush as well from their defensive line so far here in the preseason. You've got the Raiders taking on San Francisco. You know, the home team in this series has won 6 straight, covering 5 of those 6 games. For San Francisco tonight, it's going to be the first time this preseason that Michael Crabtree and Frank Gore and Brian Westbrook are going to hit the field. The Raiders going to get Darren McFadden back in the lineup. Also, backup quarterback Bruce Gradkowski expected to see his first action so far here in August. Again, though, this is a situation where you're going to see even more vanilla play calling, more vanilla offensive schemes here, because these 2 teams meet at Candlestick Park on October 17th. Certainly, they are not going to tip their hands in this one. Both teams are 2-0 straight up here in the preseason. San Francisco defense has averaged a yield of just 214 yards a game in victories against the Colts and the Vikings. Alex Smith has completed 54% of his passes. Anthony Dixon, in the absence of Gore and Westbrook, has rushed for 154 yards on 41 carries. Jason Campbell, meanwhile, playing very good at quarterback for the Raiders. Kyle Bowler coming in and really solidifying the number 2 job for himself, 19 for 30, 233 yards. Raiders, by the way, 5-2 ATS in their last 7 preseason outings. Carolina and Tennessee. Now, I had a 5-dime play on Tennessee on Monday night, and they're out of Arizona. But this now, of course, playing on a short week and going on the road as well. So that may be a problem for Tennessee. Plus, you've always got to consider this with the Titans. Jeff Fisher is one of those coaches that doesn't put a lot of stock in picking up victories straight up in preseason play. Reportedly, he would like to play all 4 of his quarterbacks in this game tonight. Starters are expected to go into the third quarter for the Carolina Panthers. As for Tennessee, supposedly their starters will play into the second quarter, some of them going to halftime. As for the Panthers, they have lost 7 consecutive games straight up in preseason play. Their offense has been pathetic so far. The first-teamers, no offensive touchdowns. 11 sacks the offensive line has allowed so far in the first 2 games. They've only got 3 field goals to show for 28 offensive possessions. Jimmy Clausen expected to follow up Matt Moore at quarterback and finish out here in the fourth quarter, even though he's playing with a chronic toe injury that was aggravated when he was sacked twice in last week's game against the Jets. Steve Smith still questionable to doubtful. He hasn't played yet so far here this month because he's recovering from that broken arm. Chris Johnson for Tennessee, 11 carries so far in the preseason. Do not expect him, however, to get double-digit carries tonight. Tennessee is a very deep ground game, and they don't need to put Johnson out there for any reason here this evening. As for Jacksonville and Tampa, Josh Freeman, the starting quarterback, still out. What you have to know about this game, Maurice Jones-Drew will not play the rest of the preseason for Jacksonville as they are resting him. Bears in Arizona. The big news, of course, coming out the other day that Derek Anderson's going to get the starting nod here for this one for the Cardinals. Anderson so far 24 for 41, 193 yards, 1 TD, 2 interceptions in the preseason. Matt Leinart, who has only attempted 17 passes and seemingly has lost his job, going 10 for 17. Who could figure that out, right? He is going to expected to play the fourth quarter in this one. Larry Fitzgerald's still out for the Bears. Brian Urlacher's still out, and the offensive line has got to give Jay Cutler some protection if possible. He was sacked 5 times in the loss to the Raiders last week. Bengals in Buffalo. T.O.'s returned to Buffalo. Bills defense second in the NFL last year with 28 interceptions. Picked one off last week against the Colts that was returned for a touchdown. So expect good coverage there on T.O. and Chad Ochocinco. Vikings in Seattle. Matt Hasselbeck and the Seattle starters are expected to play 3 quarters tonight. Hope that Matt Hasselbeck gets a little protection because his offensive line definitely injury-riddled. Left guard Ben Hamilton and left tackle, the first-round draft pick Russell Okung, both out this evening. Ravens and the Giants. The Giants, 31-16 upset of the Jets in week number 1, 24-17 loss to the Steelers last week, playing with Rhett Bomar going the distance at quarterback, their third stringer, because Eli Manning was injured, but Manning is back here tonight. Bomar, however, probably will finish up this game as well. Baltimore's problem, 8 fumbles in the first 2 games, second most allowed by any team in preseason play. This is a team that only turned the ball over fumble-wise 19 times all of last year in the regular season. For the Giants, injury concerns. Their starting center, Sean O'Hara, is out. That means the left guard, Rich Suber, who hasn't even played so far this preseason, is going to shift over to center and start over there. Chris Snee, another one of their guards, seeing his first action of the preseason. Meanwhile, a little weak in the secondary. Cornerbacks Aaron Ross, who also happens to be their top returner, and Michael Johnson is out, as is defensive tackle Chris Canty. As for your free pick, I'm going to go with the Houston Texans at home against Dallas, minus the 3 to 3.5 points in this one. Like the Texans here to rebound, especially since Gary Kubiak shredded his team after their pathetic performance in a 38-20 loss at New Orleans last week. In that game, the defense was simply shredded. Not only did the first-team defense allow 28 points against New Orleans and allow the Saints to control the ball for over 39 minutes in that contest, the rushing defense was non-existent. 198 yards allowed on 46 carries in that contest. Matt Schaub has played well in limited action so far this preseason, 13 for 16, 195 yards. The starters for Dallas have accounted for just 1 touchdown and 7 possessions. Tony Romo's only completed 45% of his passes. The ground game has only averaged 2.8 yards per carry. Listen, the Cowboys, and especially Wade Phillips, do not game plan in the preseason, and I expect them to do nothing here much tonight, because keep this in mind, these two teams meet in the 3rd game of the regular season. No one, again, is going to tip their hands, but I think it's more important, since Kubiak really shredded his team and felt they went backwards in that loss to New Orleans. It's important for them to show up and play well here to get a little momentum, because September has never been a good month for the Houston Texans, 3-10 straight up during Kubiak's tenure. Once again, Houston Texans, your free pick now for Saturday. Good luck, everybody. Talk to you again Sunday morning.